Today I'd like to continue our journey through the book of Deuteronomy. We're up to chapter 11 in this wonderful book about the journey of the Jewish people from Egypt to the Promised Land and kind of Moses' final instructions to them. In chapter 11, Moses recounts that the Lord has given the people many signs and wonders. This is one of the recurrent themes of the book of Deuteronomy. It's saying really that the Lord has taken care of the people. The Lord has not abandoned the people. The Lord has led the people every step of the journey. And of course, this would be a very important message for them because they've been on this long journey and they're thinking, what's happening here? Where are we going? We're in a desert. We were in Egypt. They're even wondering, were we better off in Egypt? So Moses is constantly reminding them, think of the signs, think of the wonders, think of what God has done for you. And the message, I think, is such an important message for us. We think of our own lives, and sometimes we can wonder, is God present? Where is God? And then we reflect on the signs and wonders, the miracle of life, the miracle of family, surrounded by friends, all of those amazing things that have happened in our lives that have been signs and wonders for us of God's love. And so it's good for us to remember that. And Moses kind of emphasizes it by saying, now don't forget what the Lord has done. This is going to be a constant message of Deuteronomy because as much as Moses says that, unfortunately, the people, they do forget. Moses also says that the Lord is now going to strengthen the people and prepare them to take possession of this land. And he describes the land as a land flowing with milk and honey. And this is going to be a recurrent theme, not only in the book of Deuteronomy, but in the other books of the Bible that will follow, that this land is a special land. It's going to be a fruitful land. It's going to be a good experience for the people, and God will be with them on this journey. He says that God will provide rain for your fields, but he will do that if you follow the commandments. Now, if you don't follow the commandments, you're going to have some problem there. Egypt, on the other hand, receives little rain. In Palestine, the rain is seasonal. There are rainy seasons and there are the dry seasons. The Canaanite god Baal was the god of thunderstorms. So you can see the importance of the rain, the water for the fertility of the land is brought out. If, on the other hand, if you don't follow the commandments, there's going to be no rain. So the idea of certain times when there was a drought, Moses refers that back to, well, you haven't been following the commandments of God too well here. So the message is follow the commandments. And like any of us, it's a good message. We listen to it. Yes, I'll follow the commandments. But then we forget. We get tempted in other directions. We become selfish. We become greedy. We become lazy. These things happen to us. Uh, and Moses reassures the people and says, you will even be able to defeat nations that are mightier than you. So don't worry about it. God will be with you and God will help you in those battles. And of course, a difficult message because we think of those nations that are mightier. Say, I don't want to mess with them. But Moses reassures the people and says, don't worry, God will help you in that situation. So God is going to set before the people both a blessing and a curse. There'll be a blessing if they keep the commandments. However, if they don't keep the commandments, there will be a curse and bad things will happen. And we know this in our own experience. What happens when we don't follow the commandments? Unfortunately, we get involved in some difficult situations. So we just tell a little white lie, no big deal. All of a sudden, that little white lie leads to another lie, and other. Well, why did I tell that little white lie in the first place? Why wasn't I truthful? Why wasn't I honest? Why wasn't I more forthcoming? Uh, Mount Gerizim will be blessed. Mount Ebal will be cursed. So Mount Gerizim, the idea of the worship of God, that will be blessed. but Ebal, where the Baal is worshipped, that will be cursed. In Deuteronomy 12, Moses tells the people that they must destroy the altars and shrines of the people who are worshiping other gods. So interesting here that they have to destroy these, but remember now they're not even in the land. So a lot of this is the experience of years later when the people are in the land and they're tempted to worship these false gods and goddesses. And Moses is saying, no, don't do that. Destroy those altars, destroy those shrines. They're not going to be helpful for you. And Moses says that the people are going to bring their offerings for sacrifice to a place that the Lord will show them. The idea of the one centralized place for worship would counteract the practices of the Canaanites, who had many shrines in various parts of the country. So the idea was, let's bring the people together. Let's have one central place where we all come together. Let's not be like the Canaanites all over the place. And again, that makes sense in terms of bringing the people together. But the problem with the Canaanites and all these altars all over the place is that if you're living in one of those regions, and there's an altar there, and the Canaanites are worshiping, and you want to worship with some of your friends, you get involved in that worship. And unfortunately, that's what happened to the people. The one centralized place, great idea, but a lot of times it's a journey. You can't get there. This other place is easy. It's more convenient. Let's go there. After all, it's basically the same thing. They're saying to themselves, we're worshiping God, but it's all these other gods and goddesses and all these other practices, and then you reject what God wants and the way you should be following. The people can eat meat. Meat, however, was not eaten every day in Israel, but it was really saved more for special banquets, special occasions. However, they must not eat the blood, but pour it out on the land. And the idea of this was very important, that the blood symbolized life. And so they have to respect life. God is the author of life. So when you're respecting life, really, you are respecting God. And that's the idea of the blood. Sacred gifts and offerings will be brought to that special place that the Lord will show them. So that's one centralized location, not all the other locations like with the Canaanites. And the blood from the Holocaust must be poured out on the altar. So the blood should not be poured out on the ground, but on the altar. And the idea of this is a sacrifice to God. Moses says, be careful. Do not be lured into following the pagan rites. Moses says they even offer their sons and daughters to their gods by burning them. They eat unclean animals. They engage in uncharted behavior. They worship idols. All of these things are not good. You should avoid those things because ultimately those are going to harm you. They're going to lead you in a direction away from God. And this is not going to be good for you. And of course, the idea of offering sons and daughters in sacrifice, this was something that was rejected. We saw this with Abraham and Isaac. God has rejected this, that God does not want this. And so these practices that the Canaanites have, that they could easily get into, because remember now, they're living with them, they're their neighbors, they know them. And so this is always going to be the temptation. And you see Moses warning the people even before they're in the land. But of course, a lot of the themes from Deuteronomy are coming after the experience of being in the land. So next time we'll take a little bit a further journey into the book of Deuteronomy, into chapter 13. God bless.